myself Bhavani Pentela, working as an assistant professor in Noida Institute of Engineering and Technology, Pharmacy Institute, Greater Noida. So, in this session or in this lesson, we are going to cover about anatomy and function of nephron and how the urine will be get formed, formation of urine. So, without any further delay, we will just dive into the session. Okay. So, what is an anatomy of an nephron? If I am talking about an nephron, so here the word nephron has been derived from the word nephrons. So, where the nephron has been derived, it is derived from the Greek word nephron. So, what is meant by nephron? So, it is derived from the Greek word nephrons. The nephron, it means kidney. So, what it is? It is any kidney. Okay. So, the most important and functional unit of kidney was nephron. So, what is a nephron? Nephron is a most important structural or functional unit of any kidney. And how many nephrons has been present in the human kidney? It is around more than 1 million nephrons in each kidney you can see. It is a microscopic structure, okay, which consists of renal corpuscle and renal tubule. Okay. So, it is a microscopic structure. The nephron has been consists, okay, it is composed. And how the nephron has been composed? Here the nephron has been composed with the renal corpuscle and renal tubule. So, if I am talking about this nephron, one end will be get closed and the second end will be get opening, and where the opening you can see here, you can see at the collecting duct. Okay. So, this is an nephron. So, if I am talking about nephron, it is a structural and functional unit of any kidney, and how the name has been derived from the Greek word. So, the nephron, it means kidney. So, we totally having more than 1 million neurons in each kidney, and it is composed of renal corpuscle and renal tubule. Okay, and one end it will be closed and the opening you can see at the collecting duct. Okay, and you will see here anatomy of any, if I am talking about the anatomy of any nephron. So, first one is afferent arterioles. Okay, this one is an afferent arterioles, from afferent arterioles by where the artery can carries the blood inside the nephron. Okay, afferent arteriole, afferent, okay, afferent arterioles होता है, efferent arterioles होता है. Okay, afferent arterioles to glomerulus to Bowman's capsule, Bowman's capsules to proximal converter tubule. After a proximal converter tubule, you can see the loop of Henle. In loop of Henle, you can divide the two parts, thin descending limb and thick ascending limb. And after of that, you can see the distal converter tubule and finally the collecting ducts. These are the parts where you can see inside the nephron. First one is glomerulus. So, what is any glomerulus? Here this is any glomerulus, this is any mash like structure. Here you can see the in red shape, right. This is any glomerulus. This is any glomerulus. So, this is any glomerulus which is surrounded by any capsule, you can call as any Bowman's capsule. Okay. So, if I am talking about here, the what is the parts of a nephron, what is the continuation, how the nephron has been composed. So, glomerulus. So, glomerulus, after glomerulus what is going to form? Bowman's capsule, and after that proximal converted tubule, and after proximal converted tubule you can see the loop of Henle. So, here the loop getting downward descending. So, this is called as a thin descending loop of Henle, and here you can call thick, and it is getting upward portion. So, you can call as an ascending limb, thick ascending limb. So, here you have to remember descending limb was thin, ascending limb was thick, and after of that you can see the distal converter tubule. This is a distal converter tubule, and finally collecting duct. These are the parts inside the nephron: glomerulus, Bowman's capsule, proximal converter tubule, thin descending limb, thick ascending limb, distal converted tubule, and finally collecting duct. Okay. So, if I am talking about the parts, here the nephron present, here the nephrons are present in the cortex and medulla of any kidney. Here how the nephrons has been present, here the nephrons has been present in the cortex and medulla of any kidney. So, here I think the first slide has been okay. Okay, let us see here anatomy. If I am talking about the anatomy of any nephron, here the anatomy of nephron, here the nephron are present in the cortex and medulla of a kidney. So, where the nephrons has been present inside the kidney, and the kidney has been divided into two structures, one is cortex portion and second one is medulla portion, right. And the cortex consists of renal corpuscle, distal tubule, proximal converted tubule. And what about the medulla? Medulla consists of loop of Henle and collecting ducts. Okay, students, do not get confused here. Here the nephron has been divided into two main parts, one is cortex part and second one is medulla part. So, cortex, so this is upper portion, jo upper side this is an a cortex, and the lower portion this is an a medulla. So, here it was clear, right. So, this is an a cortex, upward renal cortex, renal medulla. So, nephron consists of, this is a nephron, entire this is a nephron, glomerulus, Bowman's capsule, proximal converted tubule, loop of Henle, descending converted tubule, collecting duct, this is all the nephron parts, right. So, if I am talking about the nephron, the half of the portion it is present in the renal cortex and half it is present in the medulla. Okay, and what are the parts present in the cortex area, and what are the parts present in the cortex area? What I had said here, renal corpuscle, do not confuse with the renal corpuscle, it is nothing but glomerulus. Okay, this is glomerulus. So, renal calculus is nothing but renal corpuscle is nothing but glomerulus. Okay. So, look at here, what are the parts present in the renal cortex? Glomerulus, Bowman's capsule, proximal converted tubule. So, this is the thing I had mentioned here. So, cortex consists of renal corpuscle, okay, renal corpuscle, and second one is distal converted tubule. Okay. So, here you can see, so this one, okay, distal converted tubule and proximal converted tubule. Here I did not mention the Bowman's capsule because it is covered with the glomerulus. So, this is the reason I did not mention separately. So, what is the parts present on the cortex area? Glomerulus, proximal converted tubule, distal converted tubule. And what are the parts present on the medulla? Loop of Henle, collecting duct. So, look at here, loop of Henle, collecting duct. If I am talking about the nephron, it has been divided into two parts. Cortex part is an upper portion and medulla part is an inner portion. Here upper portion, not about the upper portion and inner portion. So, if I am talking the cortex is an outer layer, right, medulla is an inner layer. So, what are the parts present inside the cortex? Glomerulus, proximal converted tubule, distal converted tubule. And what about the medulla region? Loop of Henle, collecting duct. Okay. And if I am talking about the structure, it has been divided into two parts. So, according to, dear students, do not get confused here. So, if you had, if I am talking about the cortex and medulla, it has you can divide the nephron into two parts, cortex, medulla, and this nephron structure you can be divided into two, one is renal tubule and renal corpuscle. So, here renal, why the renal tubule? Look at here, this only cap, so only cap corpuscle. So, this is a corpuscle and the rest is a tube like structure, right? So, this is a tube by where you can forms the tube and where the tubes has been started. So, this is the reason, in such a way also you can classify, in such a way also you can classify the structure of nephron. One is renal tubule by where the tubules has been formed, and second one is renal corpuscle. Renal corpuscle consists of, what the renal corpuscle consists? यहाँ तक renal corpuscle है. So, renal corpuscle consists of only glomerulus and Bowman's capsule. Excuse me. So, if I am talking about the renal corpus, if I am talking about the renal corpuscle, it consists of mainly two parts. One is glomerulus and second one is Bowman's capsule. And the second structure was renal tubule. In renal tubule, you can see the proximal converted tubule, loop of Henle, distal converted tubule, collecting duct. Okay. And next we are talking about the types of nephrons, and previous slides we had talked about the structure of nephron. The structure you can classify it as a cortex medulla and you can classify it as a tubule and corpuscle. If I am talking about tubule, so where the tubule part has been get started. So, वहाँ से आपका tubule होता है parts, proximal converted tubule, loop of Henle, distal converted tubule. And what about the corpuscle? Glomerulus and Bowman's capsule. If I am talking about cortex and medulla, and what are the parts present at cortex? So, the few parts which I had mentioned in the previous slide, and what are the parts present on medulla? Loop of Henle and collecting ducts. So, if I am talking about the types of nephron, here the nephron has been divided into two main types. One is cortical nephrons. So, this is the reason why you can call as a cortical nephrons, which is present inside the cortex. And second type of nephron was the juxtamedullary nephrons, which is present inside the medulla. So, they are the two most important types of nephrons, cortex nephron and juxtamedullary nephrons, and the cortex nephron is present inside the cortex and juxtamedullary nephron present inside the medulla. It is extended into the medulla, okay, and this nephron is extended into the medulla. Cortex nephron was short and the juxtamedullary nephron was long, it having the long loops, okay, and 80% of nephrons was the cortex nephron. So, 80% of nephrons was present on the cortical portion, and 20% of nephron contains in the juxtamedullary. And what is the main function of a cortex nephron? It will get reabsorption, it will involved in the solute reabsorption. And what about the juxtamedullary? It will produces the concentrated urine. So, in this slide you have to remember 2 points. We are having the two types of nephrons, one is cortical and second one is juxtamedullary. Cortex is present in cortex and medullary was, juxtamedullary was extended to the medulla. One is short and juxtamedullary is long, and only 80%. So, 80% consists of total nephrons was an cortical nephrons and 20% of total nephrons was an juxtamedullary nephrons. So, these are all the constituents, students, where the glomerular filtration rate and glomerular capsules you can see here. So, these are the blood constituents in the glomerular filtrates. In a glomerular filtrate, these are all the constituents, and these are all the constituents remaining in the glomerulus. So, you know that glomerulus is a mesh like structure. Okay, the large particles, so the large proteins, blood cells, like platelets, and a few drugs will be retained in the glomerulus, and the rest of the part will be get passed into the filtrate. And next we will see the function of an nephron. So, if I am talking about a function of an nephron, we will talk about an individual parts, glomerulus. So, first we will discuss about the glomerulus. It is seen here ultrafiltration. It will filter the water, glucose and lot of ions, okay, but it cannot filter the cells and proteins. If I am talking about the glomerulus, the mesh like structure, where you can see the ultrafiltration. So, this is an ultrafiltration. So, where it can filter the water, glucose ions, and it cannot filter the proteins and large size of cells. Okay. And next one, Bowman's capsule. What is a Bowman's capsule? It is like a filtrate, and once the fluid entered, once by the pressure of a blood, once it reaches to the glomerulus, the retained particles will be stay inside the glomerulus, and the rest of the particles will be passes into the rest of the nephron, है ना, proximal converted tubule, distal converted tubule, and if I am talking about loop of Henle, so वहाँ तक आपका पहुँच जाएगा. So, Bowman's capsule, it will collect the filtrate. What the Bowman's capsule will do here? The Bowman's capsule will collect the filtrate. And what about the proximal converted tubule? What is mean by PCT here? The proximal converted tubule, it will reabsorb the oxygen, glucose, ions, amino acid and lot of vitamins, and it will be transported by the active process. All these will be get transported by the active process, it will get reabsorption, but it will secrete some drugs and poison substances and protons. Okay. And what about the loop of Henle? If I am talking about loop of Henle, it will reabsorb the water and salt. It will reabsorb the water and salt. And if I am talking about the distal converted tubule, it will reabsorb the sodium and it will secrete some acids, ammonia and some toxic drugs. And collecting duct, it will be get reabsorb the water, bicarbonates, urea and sodium. Okay, these are all the functions of any individual parts. So, by this diagram you will get very better understanding. So, if I am talking about this one, Bowman's capsule, proximal tubule, loop of Henle, distal converted tubule, collecting duct. So, if I am talking here, the first one, Bowman's capsule, where you can see the ultrafiltration, which I had mentioned in the previous slide. So, glomerulus, which is an ultrafiltration, right? Okay, so glomerulus is an ultrafiltration. In proximal converted tubule, selectively it will reabsorb the ions. So, here This is a proximal converter tubule. Where is the proximal converter tubule? Here the proximal converter tubule. It will reabsorb. It will reabsorb here? It will reabsorb the glucose, amino acids, water and sodium chloride. Okay, sodium ions, chloride ions, water, glucose, all these ions will be get reabsorbed by the proximal converter tubule. It is a selective reabsorption. What is a loop of Henle? It is an osmoregulation according to the salt gradient. According to the salt gradient, osmoregulation it will be follows. And next one, distal converter tubule, and distal converter tubule also it will be selectively reabsorb the ions, and finally collecting duct, it is an osmoregulation. Both are loop of Henle and collecting duct, both are osmoregulation. One is by the salt gradients and second one is by water retention, water gradient. Okay. So, glomerular filtration rate. What is a glomerular filtration rate? What is this? It is a test by where you can understand how the kidney was working, whether the kidney was working properly or not. How can you get determined? You can get determined by doing the test. How, what the test you are going to do here? Here you are going to test the kidney with the help of glomerular filtration rate. So, the glomerular filtration rate is necessary to check or to know how the kidney was functioning. We will confirm whether the kidney was functioning or not. This is a test. Okay. This amount of filter, how much amount of filtrate formed in the renal corpuscle. What is a renal corpuscle? Glomerulus. Okay. And how much amount of filtrate has been formed in the glomerulus, it can determine how the kidney has been functioning. According to this glomerular filtration rate per unit time में the both kidneys, how much filtrate has been formed in the glomerulus, you can determine the function of a kidney. So, the amount of filtrate formed in the renal corpuscle of both kidney each unit of time is the glomerular filtration rate. Okay. And if I am talking about the normal glomerular filtration rate in the males, it is approximately 120 ml per minute. So, per minute it can approximately it is about 120 ml. If I am talking about female, it is approximately 100 ml. So, according to this glomerular filtration rate, you can study or you can understand whether the kidney was functioning or not. Okay. And you can see here one point, if the glomerular filtration rate has been increased, then the reabsorption will be get decreased. If the glomerular filtration rate has been decreased, then the reabsorption will be increased. Okay. And now we will discuss the last topic in this PPT, okay, urine formation. So, how the urine will be get formed? So, here the urine will be formed in major 3 steps. One is filtration, second one is reabsorption, and third one is secretion. First the kidney have to filter, and after of that reabsorption of some fluids or some ions or any substances, and finally it will secreted from the body. So, you can say the excretion rate of urine is equal to filtration, which you have to subtract from the reabsorption, because some of the product has been reabsorbed. So, you should not count that reabsorbed product, and plus secretion, how much secretion has been happened. So, the rate of excretion is equal to filtration rate minus reabsorption rate plus secretion rate. And here we will see the steps of urine formation. So, what is the first step? The first step was filtration, and the second step was reabsorption, third step was secretion. So, in this urine formation we will discuss about the first step, the glomerular filter the water and other substances from the blood stream. So, how it is going to filter? This is the first point. Here what the blood have to do here? Here the glomerular filters the water and other substances from the blood stream. जो blood में आपका जो सारे substances होता है, water होता है, ये सारे चीज़ आपका glomerular filter करना पड़ता है ना. So, let me see how it is going to happen. Each nephron has glomerulus, right? If I am talking about the parts of an nephron, the glomerulus consists of if I am talking about nephron, it consists of an glomerulus, Bowman's capsule, proximal converted tubule, distal converted tubule, loop of Henle, collecting duct. So, these are all the parts of nephron. So, each nephron has glomerulus, right? Each nephron has a glomerulus. What is a glomerulus? It is a mesh like structure which is covered by a cap, which you can call as a Bowman's capsule. Okay? So, the glomerulus is a network of capillaries which is surrounded by the cap like structure you can call as a glomerular capsule. or you can call as a Bowman's capsule. जो Bowman's capsule का next name was glomerular capsule. You can call it as a glomerular capsule or you can call it as a Bowman's capsule. Here the glomerular filtration begins. Here once the filtration begins, then the urine formation process. So the glomerular filtration is a first step in the formation of urine. So this is a very simple process how the urine will be get formed. First step was the filtration, and how the filtration will be happens once the filtration begins. So filtration is a first step in the formation of an urine. Okay. So let me see how the body, how the nephron will be get filtered. Okay. Inside the glomerulus, here I am talking about the glomerulus. So mesh like structure, the network of an capillaries. Okay. Inside the glomerulus, but the blood pressure pushes fluid from the capillaries into the glomerular capsule. Here you know that the blood will carries here the blood will carries by the artery. It will enter into the nephron, right. So what is going to happen here? The pressure, here the blood pressure pushes. Here pressure आपका pressure increase हो गया. Here the blood pressure pushes the fluid from the capillaries. So this is an capillary. It will pushes the fluid from the capillaries into the glomerular capsule. So जो जब भी आपका blood push करेगा, जो the larger particles, proteins, जो which cannot be filtrate, it will be retained in the glomerulus, and the rest of the part will be entered into the filtrate, है ना. So inside the glomerulus, when the pressure, blood pressure pushes the fluid from capillaries into the glomerular capsule by the specialized cells, then what is going to happen? The filtration process will be begins, and it will it will allows by this pushing, it allows the smaller particles or just water, it allows into the rest of the parts of an nephron, and the larger proteins, blood cells will be blocked in the glomerulus. Okay. So see here students, so see here this is an glomerulus. So when the blood pushes here when the blood pushes here, जो blood में सारे ions होता है ना, जो ions or any toxic substances or any poison, whatever it may be present, so the larger particles and the blood cells will be retained in the glomerulus, and the rest of the parts will be flow into the filtrate. Okay. So this is you will see the formation. So the filtrate, the fluid has been passed through the membrane, flows from the glomerular capsule and further into the nephron. So जो retain करना है, which is present inside the glomerulus, and the rest of the filtrate will be flows to the Bowman's capsule and to the rest of the parts. I think no confusion here. In the formation of urine, first step was filtration. How the nephron has getting filtered? It is an ultrafiltration. How it is getting filtered here? In ultrafiltration, what is going to happen? Here in ultrafiltration, here the larger molecules or the blood cells will be retained in the glomerulus, and the rest of the parts will be passed to the Bowman's capsule and the rest of the parts inside the nephron. And the second step was reabsorption. Reabsorption, what is the necessity of reabsorption? So जो चीज़ है, larger particles, proteins has been filtered. And what about the rest of ions? So rest of ions has been passed into the Bowman's capsule and to the rest of the parts. And here the body need the homeostasis. To maintain the homeostasis, some ions will be get reabsorbed. Some ions will be get reabsorbed from the renal tubule. Okay. So here the renal tubule से जो कोई ions है, जो कोई concentration of substances है, आपका reabsorb करना पड़ता है. The second step was reabsorption. The reabsorption, what is the necessity here? The glomerular filters the water and small solutants out of the bloodstream. When the filtrate exists from the glomerulus, here the filtrate, look at here. Here the filtrate has been exist from the glomerulus. Glomerulus से आपका filter exit हो गए, and where it has been passed, it passed to the glomerular capsule. Okay. So when the filter has been exist from the glomerulus, it flows into the duct of an nephrons, you can call as an renal tubule. जो कार्पल सेल से जो भी रिटेन करना है, जो फ्लूइड नहीं जाना होता है, लार्जर प्रोटीन्स और ब्लड सेल्स आपको ग्लोमुलस के अंदर रिटेन हो गए, एंड द रेस्ट ऑफ द पार्ट्स विल बी फ्लोस इनसाइड द capsule. What it is? Renal capsule. Okay, and in this renal capsule, जो सारे ions like the glucose, amino acids and smaller proteins, it will be get reabsorbed. So this is the reason why this step you can call as a reabsorption. And the last step was secretion. Finally, the kidney have to secrete the urine. So this process you can call as a secretion. Here the filtrate absorbed of glomerular flows through the renal tubule, and जो सारे ions, what are the ions required to the body has been reabsorbed, and the rest of the ions has been the kidney have to send the rest of ion by the urine. जो ions है reabsorb करना है, जो ions filter करना है वो filter कर दिया, इसका बाद में जो ions reabsorb करना है वो reabsorb भी किया, and जो बचा है जो which is not required to our body, it will be get eliminated. Okay, so this is called as an urine formation. First one is filtration, second one is reabsorption, third one is secretion. Finally, it will be secreted, and the urine will flows from the renal tubule to the collecting duct. From the collecting duct से आपका secrete होता है. Thank you.